Our next category of widgets are input widgets. So input widgets are those widgets that allow user to interact with the application by providing their inputs. And their input can be in the form of providing the text, scroll bar, sliding, scale, etc. In Tkinter, there are 7 widgets that can be called as input widgets. Those are entry widgets, text widgets, scroll bar, scale, slider, spin box, canvas. So we will be discussing about each one of them. But for this video, we will be discussing about entry and text widget. So entry widget is the rectangular box that allows user to type text in it, and the text can be entered only in the single line. So in this image you can see that there is an entry box and user can type a text over here. The text cannot be moved to the next line, so we won't be able to provide the height of this entry widgets. So let's go ahead and see how we can create this application.
Now, in order to create an entry widget, we have to type entry with capital E, and then we have to provide the name of the window on which we want to place it. In my case, it is WS, which is the parent window, and then the geometry manager. So for now, I am using pack geometry manager over here. Let's run it. So now on this window, you can see there is an entry widget, and I can type any text over here. You can increase the size of the font by changing the value in the font option. Font. It accepts 3 parameters: the name of the font, the size of the font, and the type of the font. So now it has started appearing little big. So if I type something, you can see the change in this font size. We can assign some border width as well. So in order to do that, we can type border width, and let me give it 10. It has a sunken kind of texture now. Next thing that we can do is we can change the background color, we can change the text color. So to do that, I will just type bg equals to the name of the background color. So let's say this. You can either provide the name of the color or you can provide the hexa code, and the foreground color, which is the text color, that will be white. So let's type it. So while typing it, you can observe that the letters start appearing from the left side. We can change that as well by changing the value in the justify. So there are 3 options: left, right, and center. If I set this to center and run the application, and now if I will start typing, it will the words start appearing from the center. Same thing will happen if I will set it to the right. The size of the entry widget can also be controlled, but it can only be controlled in the x-axis. That is, we can only increase the width of this entry widget. So for that, I need to use width option, and whatever the value you will provide, accordingly the entry widget size will be changed. So for example, if I will set it to 10, you can see that the size has been reduced to 10, and if I will set it to 50, the size of the width will increase to 50. You won't be able to adjust the height because it is only a single line widget, so height option is not available in it. You can also change the state of the entry widget, which means whether you will allow the user to make changes or not. So by default it is normal, but you can change it to disable. Now you can see that entry widget is appearing, but I am not able to click on it. So I can set it back to normal. Now I can input the text. Other than that, there is also a read-only mode, which will allow user, which will not take any input from the user. So you can set any text. This is similar to the disable one. So this is how we can create the entry widget. Now let's go ahead and learn the use of this entry widget, how we can use this. First of all, the major information. The data type of entry widget by default is a string. So all the text stored, whether it is an integer, float, anything, it stores it as a string. There are a couple of functions that we can use to perform action on this entry widget. So we are going to see that. But before that, we need to create some kind of variable for that so that we can refer it using a variable. So here I am going to create a variable with the name. So let's say we are taking a user input as name. Now let me show you the data type of name. There is a function with the name get that is used to fetch the information from the entry widget. So I will use the get function on the name variable. Also I need a type because I want to check the data type. Let's run the program. Here you can see that it is showing string. So on the terminal you can see that since we have printed it, that's why it is showing string. This get function can also be used on the text variable. So if I just create a text variable over here, text variable, and now before I can do that, I have to create it on the top. What will be the data type of this text variable? So you can provide boolean, string, integer. Since entry widget is already a string, so let me create a integer one over here. int var bracket open close, and the reference for this variable I will give for text var. So the reference for this var I will give over here. Now I can do the same thing over here. Now instead of using a name, I can use var default value is 0, because every time when we use integer var, it gives the default value as 0. And now you can see that the class is integer, so the data type of this is changed to integer because we are using a integer variable over here. But that does not mean that data type for the entire widget has been changed. So if I just go ahead and print another line over here with name, now you can see that the second output is still showing string. So this is how you can use the get. Now let's go ahead and write one function that will fetch information from this entry widget and display it on the terminal. So I will create a function and I will name the function as get info from entry. Now I will take the name dot get and print. I will print it. You can also use a label or any other widget where you want to fill in this information. So this is the function. So when this function will be triggered, whatever the input is inside this entry widget will be displayed on the screen. But we need something in order to trigger this function. So I am going to create one button over here. So now in this button, in the command I have provided the name of this function. So every time the button will be clicked, this function will be triggered, which will display whatever the text has been entered inside the entry widget. So now if I just type something, let's say 12, and I clicked over here, on the terminal you can see that 12 is printed. Let's change the value to 14. Now 14 has been printed. So I can also type some text over here. Okay, I already run it, that's why it is appearing. So right now what you can see that we have printed a text, we have printed numbers over here. All of them are being displayed properly. The reason is because we are getting information from the name, and name is treating each entry as a string value. But if I will apply the same thing on the var, which is strictly for the integer values. See, now what will happen if I just enter 12 over here? It is printing 12 on the terminal. If I enter 14, it is printing 14. But as soon as I will enter any text, it will throw an error. See, this is the error. We cannot enter the string value. We can either enter the integer value or float value. There is an advantage for this one as well. You can just make, in case if you want only the numbers to be entered by the user, you can put this thing into a try and catch block, where let me show you quickly. So if I just put this inside a try and except block, so if user has not entered the number, then he will see this message. So if I enter 12, the program says 12 is acceptable and it is printing 12. Let's say 20, it is displaying 20. As soon as I enter the text, it is showing numbers only. So this is, now the program is going into an exception. So this is what you can do. The other function is set. So set is used to set the default value. So right now if I am running the application, you can see that there is a 0 already there. So this is displayed using the set. You can set any default information over here. So set can only be used with the text variable which we have created over here. And we can do one thing. Let's say by default it is appearing 0. I want the by default number should be 20. So I will write var.set and then number. So the value that I want to print, I want to set over here. So if I will learn it once again, now you can see that the default value the entry widget has is 20. So this is what you can do using the set function. Our third function is insert. So insert is basically used to insert a particular character inside on a particular index value. Let me show you how you can do that. So the way we are using set with the var only, we won't be able to use it with the normal variable. We can use it only with the text variable. Similarly, insert function can only be used with the normal variable, which is name in this case. So let me go ahead and change the value of 20 to 20,000. So this is a default text that will appear on the widget. So right now the default text that is appearing on the widget is 20,000. So what I will do, I will try to insert a E at this position, like this one. 2 it at the 0th index, then 1 and then 2. So I have to insert it on the second position. So the syntax says name dot insert, and then I have to provide the index value where I have to insert. So it will be 2, and then the text that I want to insert. I can provide the integer or anything, but it will be treated as a string only because we are using name over here, which is the entry widget. So let me enter I over here. Now you can see that 20i000 is printed. So this is how you can use insert function to insert a text. Our last function is delete. So delete is used to delete the text inside the entry widget. So let's see how we can do that. I will create a new function with the name clear entry, and here this method can be used only on the variable name. So in our case the variable name is name dot and then delete. Now we have to provide the starting index and then end index, like from where we want to start and where we want to end. You can also type the keyword end if you want to refer it to the last index value. If I will, okay, let's run it, then I'll show you. Now I need a button to trigger this function. Now we have a delete button over here. The moment I will click on delete button, the entire entry widget will be cleaned. But what I want now, I want only, let's say this was the output earlier. So what I just want to delete only two characters, two starting characters. So the starting characters value will be 0 and 1. So here, since I want to delete 0 and 1, two characters, so I will provide the index value 2 instead of 1. So the moment I will click, you can see that starting two numbers has been deleted. So this is how you can use the delete method, delete the content inside the entry widget. So with this we have learned how to use entry widget and how to trigger all the functions. We have created this small program that we have shown earlier inside in the slide. The source code for this program is available with the PDF document available with this video. So you can run this program and see this is how it will appear, and as soon as the user will click on the button will start appearing on this widget. So let me give you a brief information about this source code for this program, because we are going to learn more about it in the button section. So here what I have done, first of all I have created an entry and I have assigned a variable to it with the name E. Then the entry is placed on the main screen, that is WS. Then width is 25, font justify center, text variable as the where is the string over here in here. After that I have created a frame. Inside that frame I have placed the buttons using the grid geometry manager. So each button, I have created all the buttons over here, assigned the row and column accordingly so that it would look like a keypad. And then here is the function. I have used an anonymous function, which is lambda function, which is triggering this, and this is the argument passed to that function. So every time you have to pass an argument to a function in the Tkinter, you have to use a lambda function. You cannot do it directly like this. So now let me tell you about the function. So this is the function that we have created that accepts a parameter, and then we have created a global parameter that holds the information of a current number. Now global we have to provide, since we are using the same thing over here, that's why we have to provide a global keyword. Otherwise the scope of a variable inside a function remains inside that function only. So now num equals to num plus n, the value which user has entered. So since both of the values are string, so they are concatenating instead of adding up. So they are concatenating. That's why when we are running this program, when we have clicked on 1 then 2, so 2 is appearing over here instead of it is looking as a 3. At the end we have used the var.set, so text variable dot set, to set the value of number. So this function is being triggered every time the button is clicked. With this we have learned the entry widget. Next we are going to talk about the text widget.